is out there getting some of the color of what's happening at all the booths with all the fans. So let's go out to Joe right now. Joe, what's going on out there?
Hey guys, we're here on the floor with one of our partners here, for Blizzard's partner, Steel Series. They created one of the mice that are in the BlizzCon store, which actually sold out on the very first day. And Kat was giving me such a hard time about my choice of mouse. So I chose to come and check out her choice of mouse and see how this mouse works. I have actually the designer of the mouse here with me. What's your name?
Phil.
Phil, okay, tell us a little bit about this mouse.
Basically, this mouse is a 15-button mouse that we've designed for World of Warcraft. The thing that my reason for wanting a mouse with 15 buttons was that when you play World of Warcraft and you're higher level, you've got so many abilities that you constantly move your hand around the keyboard to get to your other abilities, hence reducing your reaction time. So I said, I don't want to move my left hand, so I want to bind more stuff on my right hand, so hence coming out with a mouse that has 15 buttons. Now, I just didn't want to limit it to 15 buttons. I wanted these buttons to be all completely configurable, so that you could program to anything that you want, and you can even do in-game macros on them using the exact same scripting language that you would do in the game. Also, in the layout of this mouse, when we were designing it, something that was really important for us was to keep the ergonomics really good. So we wanted to have all the buttons basically lay in a natural position to where your fingers rest when you're resting on the mouse. Like this D-pad basically has 4 directions, and the middle part of it can be pressed. So it's meant for you to position your thumb on it so that you can just kind of rock your fingers up and down, forward and back to be able to get all the commands. So every single button like that requires very minimal movement to get it, which gives you a much faster reaction time, much faster reflexes.
I have to ask you about that because there are a lot of girl gamers out here today, and one of our biggest pet peeves is the mouse is either too big or it's way too small, because you have some people have really big hands, some have small. Is it sensitive all the way to the end?
Yes, it is. You can click the button from here, basically, if you want to.
So any point on here?
Yeah, from this, yeah, exactly.
Okay. And also, it is a corded mouse, right? Some people are saying, is there a possibility that you'll eventually go wireless?
I actually don't recommend to go wireless for the following reason, that because of the complexity of the commands that you're sending through, if you go with a wireless mouse, the speed of transfer between your mouse and the actual receptor is going to create latency when you send a 200-character macro, because you can do that on this mouse. You can bind like a 200-character macro to a single button, and with the wireless, that would actually create lag, which would, reduce your ability to play well.
How about those people that are actual competitive gamers? We have a lot of tournament players here today that usually bring their own hardware with them because they're so used to having pre-configured stuff. Can they take this, program it at home, and bring it to a tournament and be able to use it?
Yes, I mean, the whole thing is we've been developing this mouse with Blizzard since day one, and one of the objectives was that that professional gamers could use this in a competitive arena. We've also gotten some feedback because we sponsor some of the top playing, pro gamer teams out there, including like SK Gaming that was competing earlier. And we basically sat with them in 2008 when we were finalizing the detail of this to get their feedback as to the mouse, what they would want for it. So every single one of our products, we go through this panel of pro gamers to make sure that, we get their opinions and their feedback to make sure that it would work with them.
Okay, and how fast is the actual mouse?
It's 3200 DPI. It's, top of the line sensor in it. It's got like all the functionality in it that you would want. You can basically set your polling rate the same way you would with a very high-end competitive mouse. You can do all those settings on this mouse, plus the added functionality. Now also one thing that's coming up that we're working with Blizzard is that in an upcoming patch, we're going to be adding in-game integration. So basically Blizzard modified their game code to be able to recognize this mouse natively within the game. So you'll be able to go within the game itself and bind everything without even needing a driver. And we're the only mouse on the market right now that can do that.
And then I guess my last really big question for you, do you feel that this gives the person that's using it a competitive advantage against somebody else?
Definitely. I mean, I would even say an unfair advantage.
You heard it here. It's the mouse. It sold out the first day. It's available. Where can people get this mouse?
You can get them at Best Buy, GameStop, also on our web store, on the Blizzard web store. When you see it, if you see it available, get it, because it sells out within a few days or even a few hours, depending on where you're getting it.
I think Kat may have been right. It is a beautiful mouse, the World of Warcraft mouse. Steel Series created it, and back to you guys at the desk.
Mouse. It's a beautiful mouse.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Joe. That's the official World of Warcraft mouse.
Official
right?
one, yes.
Exactly.
We had that on the stage last year.
Now, we just got out of the StarCraft panel, which had a lot of news about the voice cast in StarCraft 2, so it's appropriate now that we're joined by Russell Brower, the man who's in charge of all things audio at Blizzard, including music, voice, sound, all that stuff. Russell, it is so great to have you here. We've been using your music throughout the day on DirecTV. Awesome. Amazing, epic scores that you put together for all of Blizzard games. How has BlizzCon been going for you?
BlizzCon's been terrific. You know, it just gets better every year. And it's not just, it's the games, it's the show itself, the production value of everything we're doing. It's really exciting to be a part of.
What is it like for you getting prepared for BlizzCon? What's your role in this show specifically?
We had several facets of it. There's always supporting our fellow team members who are putting on panels. So all their AV materials we touch at some point. And then probably more sexy is the fact that we announced Cataclysm. So we have a wonderful introduction cinematic, and we introduced the playable class of the monk for Diablo 3, so that entailed another preview trailer.
Exactly.
And so we recorded new music for all of this, and fresh voices, and new sound design.
Fantastic. Well, we've got a lot of questions for you on Twitter. The fans, we told them you were coming on. They have a lot of things to ask you, so let's go right to Twitter now.
Excellent.
You guys can send Twitter questions to me at Jeff Keighley on Twitter. First one comes from Adam, and he says, does Blizzard ever plan on doing a Video Games Live type concert tour for Blizzard game music? I think a lot of people would be excited to see all the great Blizzard themes over the years in a live concert setting. Is that something you're thinking about?
It's a wonderful idea, and we absolutely have been kicking this around. And who knows, because the idea of taking a musical experience to major cities all across the world, Video Games Live has certainly brought it. I mean, they've made it happen with their shows. So we did a show in Houston with them just a few weeks ago, and we did 2 full concerts. The first one was Blizzard only, and the second was their normal Video Games Live concert. It was really well attended, really well received.
I bet it was. I've been hanging out in the Instance chat room today, and a lot of them had some questions for you, and there's 2 in particular. They wanted to know what was the difference in the inspiration between Lich King and then Burning Crusade. They said there's a big difference between Burning Crusade and Lich King when you listen to it, and what was your different inspirations?
We try and keep the music as unique as even the logos of these things. And so the storyline of Lich King was just so centered around a single driving force of evil bad things. And so there was the environmental aspect. I mean, we're in Northrend, and it's a completely different environment. And then we have Arthas as the Lich King to deal with. Right. So that was a very specific thing. In some ways, Burning Crusade had a broader scope, and Outland was just so out there that we decided to explore more sonorous textures and things like that. It was just a flip side to the melodic approach we took for more of probably Wrath of the Lich King.
Have you started thinking about Cataclysm at this point? I mean, this sounds like a sound designer's dream to me.
It absolutely is. Well, new music for both the Worgen race and the Goblin race premiered yesterday. They were incorporated both in the cinematic intro that we did, and also it's in the game. I mean, the players playing it these 2 days at BlizzCon have gotten to hear that in context, which is really where it belongs.
Fantastic. Well, Russell, you were very kind to let us behind the scenes at Blizzard to understand a bit more about what you do. So we have more questions for you from Twitter, but right now we're going to head behind the scenes at Blizzard with Russell at his office.
I'm Russell Brower, and I'm Director of Audio here at Blizzard Entertainment. This is my 28th year working in music and sound in general, and I come from a strong background of a little of everything: film, television, and a lot of theme parks. A lot of television, a lot of theme parks. This is our final mix room. All final audio decisions, balances of sound relating music to dialogue to sound effects are all made in this room. When we work on a cinematic, for instance, from the cinematics department, we'll have the picture up there, and we will synchronize all the sound effects and all the music that we've created to the picture, and set all the relative levels of each thing on the mixing board here. And it's a process where we just inch through the piece frame by frame until we've got it exactly right. Here in our mixing room, all the sounds and music and dialogue come together on a computer. Actually, 2 big computers, and what's happening here, if you look at the screen, is each horizontal row is equal to a track on virtual tape. But like that first line will be maybe swords clanking or something like that, and the second line will be whooshes and air movement and stuff like that, and then you can see these little squiggly lines going through it, and those represent all the volume changes we've made over time. So as the picture's playing back, we will say turn up the dialogue to feature it in a moment, and then pull the music back, and then once the dialogue's done, we'll push the music up full and go for the most epic sound we can, and we have complete control of each element of the sound. Our challenge has been to find the sound of each game. Diablo 3 has a very iconic sound or musical heritage, I should say, from the first 2 or 3 installments of the game. That soundtrack was so recognizable by our players that when we announced Diablo 3 last year, we didn't make our first opening statement with a press release or a video or a speech. We actually just brought the lights down to red. We brought an amazing guitarist out onto the stage, and he played that opening chord, and you could hear the buzz in the auditorium. And then he played the second chord, and 11,000 people, you could hear the excitement building. So by the time we played the video and saw Diablo roar and the logo came up, the place had just come apart, and it was one of the most amazing experiences. So each of our projects has that kind of recognizable musical statement. It's as unique as our logo. I always like to say that we put our very best foot forward every time, so my favorite thing right now is what we've just been working on, which is StarCraft 2. We recorded a 78-piece orchestra, world-class, a 32-voice choir, and the music was epic, it was bold, it was cinematic in scope, and done with the very best musicians on the planet. Well, that's kind of a summary of how we put together music, sound, dialogue, and try to create an immersive experience for our players.
Who is that guy?
Who is that guy?
I know, but it's cool to see you inside the studio there. And let me ask you, how early do you get involved in the development of music and sound for a game? I know Rob Pardo was here talking about the work on the unannounced MMO that the other team is working on. Are you already involved in, the sound and the music for a game this early on, or when do you come involved?
Absolutely. We get involved in the beginning, and that's one of the beauties of having an in-house sound department. And I have to hand it to Blizzard's powers that be that create this environment for us so that we can be involved from the beginning, grow the soundtrack with the project, iterate just like the game designers do, just like the artists do, and not have to come in at the 11th hour and throw something over the fence and hope it works. Yep. So I think it's an ideal way to work.
Excellent.
I've always wanted to ask you, you were an Imagineer for Disney. What is that like?
It was quite an adventure.
I bet.
In some ways, it was the perfect kind of ground school, if you will, for what I'm doing now, because while it was three-dimensional, it was still kind of like World of Warcraft. Yeah. The audience is free-ranging, where the audio mix is determined at any given point by where they're standing, and they can go almost anywhere they want. We can influence them, but we can't always tell what they're going to do. And so it goes with World of Warcraft. So some of the similar challenges were awaiting me when I joined Blizzard, and it's very apropos, I think.
Excellent. Let's go back to Twitter now. We've got another question for you, Russell. This one comes from Creone. And Creone says, for Russell, are you going to do or hoping to do the music for the Warcraft movie? Good question.
Well, I think more important than who does the music is what music is in the movie.
Yep.
So at this point in time, it's so early, my best contribution is to make the game music as awesome and compelling as it can be, so that it just makes sense to keep the movie, keep that continuity and keep the movie relevant to our players. So hopefully we'll just keep supplying that stuff. I'm hoping that all the right people will be listening to this music as they develop it. And Chris Metzen is heavily involved with the film, and he's the sound department's biggest fan.
Excellent.
So it'll work out, I'm sure.
It could have.
You just recently got out of several recording sessions for StarCraft 2. How does the music help tell the story in this game?
I think music can reach you on a whole other level than VO or sound effects or everything. Sound effects are very visceral, and VO is very direct.